Okay, guys, today we're going to talk about the real number system. Okay, so real numbers, which we'll refer to as R. Okay, let me zoom in on this just a little bit. Okay, real numbers are all numbers. Okay, but we're going to split them up into two different categories today. Looking at irrational numbers or rational numbers. So let's go ahead and fill in the rational numbers first. So for rational numbers, it'll be all fractions and decimals that end or have a repeated pattern. Okay, so got Q, which is going to stand for, here's your fraction, a decimal number, or a square root of 16, which comes out to a whole number. Okay, so rational numbers can have kind of three different categories. You've got integers. Oops, excuse me. Integers. So like -2, -1, 0, 1, 2. Those are integers. Okay, whole numbers could be referred to as obviously 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay, natural numbers, you might also hear them referred to as natural numbers. 1, 2, and 3. So on and so forth. Dot, dot, dot. Dot, dot, dot. Okay, so irrational numbers can be decimals that never end or have no repeating pattern. Okay, so the most common one that you guys are used to should be pi. We could say the square root of 2, another square root, like square root of 101, something like that. Okay. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is just sort them out. Okay, so you're going to name all the sets of numbers to which each number belongs to. Okay, so we've given each kind of number a letter. Okay, integers Z, whole numbers W, natural numbers N, rational Q, irrational I. Okay, so we're going to put these into each one. Okay, so for instance, number 30, have N, W, Z, Q, and R. Okay, so like for number 30, the only one that it wouldn't fall into that category would be irrational. Okay, so let's try number 2. Got Z. Okay, Z is a integer. Q for a rational number. And then R, because it is a real number. Okay, so let's look at one where we might have the I involved. So number 4. So if it does have the I involved, it's going to end up being I and which one? It should be I and R. Okay, so try and fill in the rest of this box on your own. Just pause the video, and then once you get done, you can press play, and then you can check yourself. Okay. So there is 1 through 12. You can check yourself and make a note of any that you missed. See if you can figure out why you missed it. And we'll move on. Okay, so we're still sorting. We're going to, now we're looking at this almost like a Venn diagram of sorts. So some of them will fall into some of them will fall into each little circle. Okay, so like if we look at A, okay, you have to determine which one that falls into. Okay, so like for instance, if you think A falls into rational, that's because it does. Okay, it also falls into integer, falls into whole, falls into natural. Okay, so if you notice, all of these smaller circles are already inside of the one that's bigger than it. So you don't need to list it in rational, don't need to list it in integer, don't need to list it in whole, just in natural, because natural is going to be, if it's natural, it's a whole number. If it's a whole number, it's an integer. If it's an integer, it's a rational number. Okay? So for the first one, letter A, 7, that's going to be a natural number. Okay, so if we look at like B is a negative 36 over 12, okay, which a negative 36 over 12 is going to be the same as negative 3, okay? That is going to be an integer. It's also a rational number, but we'll just put it in integer because now it's going to be an integer and a rational, okay? So let's look at C. Okay, C is a negative the square root of 36. The square root of 36 is going to be 6. So we've got a negative 6. That is going to be the same as B, still an integer. All right, see right there. Okay. And then, of course, we have this whole separate irrational bubble. Okay. So if we look at D, we know that pi is our most famous irrational number. So we'll write D right there. I would mark them as you go through so that you know you've already done it. Okay, and again, pause the video, fill out E through K, and then you can check yourself. Okay, there is the little sorting map. Okay, so we'll move on to the last section of our notes today. Okay, just answering a few questions about this again. Okay, so number 1, which expression does not name an integer? Okay, so I'm actually going to have you, this is almost like a little quiz, so I'm going to see how you're doing. Okay, so I actually want you to go ahead and do 1 through, actually go ahead and do the rest of it. Okay, so 1 through 8, go ahead and answer each one of them, pause the video, you can check yourself, and then you can go ahead and get started on your homework. Okay, if you're confused about anything, once I can return to school, I can answer some questions. Feel free to email me, and I will answer them before the day is over, but don't, I might not be able to answer while you're in class, so just keep that in mind. Okay, good luck. Okay. There it is. Good luck with your homework. Work hard.